Fallen Leaves Publishing presents Tales from the Tank, Season 1, Episode 2, Meeting Melinda's Father. Written by Porsche Ray and read by Mallory Peters. This is companion material for Book 1 in the Melinda series. Introduction. Tales from the Tank are short stories that are companions to the larger standalone novels in the Melinda series. They can be read before, after, or simultaneously with their corresponding novel. This story happens alongside Chapter 3 in Melinda and Her Father Go Scuba Diving, Book 1 of the Melinda series. Where the main books in Melinda focus on Melinda herself, Tales from the Tank is from Teensy's perspective, and will introduce you to things Melinda is unaware of. Preface. Hi, I'm Teensy, Melinda's pet fish. I figure since she gets to tell her stories, I should be able to tell mine as well. You and I, well, we probably don't have much in common. I am a goldfish after all, and I need to be submerged in water to survive. You likely live on the dry side and breathe air and all that. I think you'll be surprised at how similar our stories actually are. Listen on for a behind-the-scenes peek at what really goes on in the Longer's house. Tales from the Tank, Season 1, Episode 2, Meeting Melinda's Father. Let me go! I screamed at Melinda. Don't touch me! I swam furiously around the small cup she had trapped me in. I had gone out on a limb for her, asked her nicely for some extra food, shared my secret. Then she had betrayed me. While I'd been busy enjoying a few extra fish flakes, she had been plotting how to catch me and trap me in this ridiculous cup. Why had I thought trusting her would be a good thing? Obviously, she could understand me. That much was clear. I had asked her for more food, and she'd given it to me. The lines of communication had successfully been opened up. Then, boom! A net had swooped into the tank and pinned me to the side. Moments later, her hand gripped around my gills as she transported me into the small cup of water. The entire time ignoring my protests. What the? Said Melinda's father. The mug of steaming hot chocolate he had been holding smashed to the ground with an incredible crash. I looked at him. Until now, I hadn't realized he was nearby. This was great. Just great. Now he knew my secret, too. I couldn't believe how stupid I had been. I should have never told Melinda about my new power. If I had just kept quiet, I'd still be in my tank right now, and my secret would still be just that, a secret. I told you he could talk, said Melinda. I could feel my scales vibrating with anger. Who did she think she was? My new ability was my secret to tell, and mine alone. At a minimum, she should have at least consulted me before telling her father. She held the cup I was trapped in up higher to show her dad. The water sloshed dangerously up the edges, and I had to flutter my fins frantically to stay low and to the middle, just in case she tipped it a bit too much. I didn't want to accidentally take a free ride through the air and go splat on the floor like her father's hot chocolate cup had. With Melinda, accidents like that tended to happen. "Stop it!" I yelled. "Put me back!" I was addressing Melinda, but her father could step in at any time. I'd be okay with that. Well, as long as he was on my side and told her to put me back in my tank. Melinda hushed me. "We aren't going to hurt you, little guy," she said. I wasn't sure I believed that. Maybe that's what she told every fish, right before she gave them the old flusheroo down the toilet. "Holy smokes, Melinda," said Melinda's father. "You taught your fish to speak." I was about to tell him Melinda had nothing to do with it, but she formed words faster than I could. "I didn't," said Melinda. "It was that storm last night. He must have been electrified or electrocuted or something. Isn't this great? He can tell us all about what life is like as a fish. He can teach us about living under the water." I watched as her dad sat down on the floor, right in the middle of the hot chocolate mess, and put his head in his hands. If I had hands, it's what I would be doing too. I had words now. Things were supposed to be different. But I was quickly finding out that nothing had changed. I still wasn't able to speak for myself. Melinda had decided to tell her father about my new ability. Melinda had decided to trap me in the most humiliating way possible. Melinda had decided to transfer me into a cup in the most painful way I could imagine. And now, Melinda was giving me a job. All of it without bothering to ask me how I felt about any of it. What if I didn't want to teach them about what my life was like? What if I didn't ever want to talk about living underwater with anyone? Would they still keep me around? Or was it their way or the highway? What if I didn't want to live with them anymore? Would they find me a different home? I felt like I was suffocating under all the questions. But I didn't have the experience to get any of them out of my lips so I could hear the answers. "Oh, Melinda," said Melinda's father. "What are we supposed to do with him now?" Melinda's father didn't look impressed. In fact, he looked a little green around the edges of his face. At least I wasn't the only one uncomfortable with how it was all being shared. They both stared at me, and for some reason, unknown to me, I did my best to look happy. On the inside, I was boiling with anger, but I felt pressure to pretend that everything was okay, even though I was beyond furious. "Guys," I said, "relax. I'm not gonna grow wings and fly." I knew that for sure. I had already tried last night while they had been sleeping. The list of things I knew I couldn't do was longer than the list of things I knew I could do, though I wasn't ready to give up yet. I knew for sure that I could speak and that the humans could understand me. That, all on its own, was pretty incredible. It didn't mean that there had to be more talents waiting for me to discover, but it also didn't mean there weren't. From what I could tell so far, my new ability was pretty restricted. So far, the only thing on my can-do list was talk, but that was still pretty impressive. Melinda and her father looked at me. This wasn't how I had imagined this conversation happening. But now, here we were. "So," I said, "I found out last night that I can talk. It's a new thing." I paused. I mean, I don't know if it's the only new thing or if there's more, but I'm still figuring it out. Melinda and her father continued to look at me. At this point, they might have crossed the line into staring. "Can you, put me back in my tank?" I asked. Melinda looked at her father, and I watched as he shrugged. Melinda frowned. I think she was enjoying holding me in her hand in the cup. "The tank?" I said again. "Please?" Melinda sighed. "Melinda," said her father, "if he wants to go back into the tank, put him back into the tank. The only thing more absurd than a talking fish is arguing with a talking fish." Melinda frowned, and her other hand came closer and closer to the top of the cup. "No!" I cried. "Not like that!" I used my fins the best I could in the small space to try and stay at the very bottom. Melinda pulled her hand back. "You just finished saying you wanted to go back into the tank," she said. Now was as good a time as any other to tell her how I felt about being touched. "Can you just put the cup in the water and I can swim out on my own?" I asked. "I don't really like being touched." "But I hold you all the time," said Melinda. "Melinda," said her father, "you know you aren't supposed to put your hands in the tank." I looked over to him, grateful that the rule was at least in place, even if it wasn't enforced. "What?" said Melinda. "He likes it." "No," I said. As soon as the word left my mouth, pride swelled in my heart. I had done it. I wasn't sure what would happen next, but I had corrected a miscommunication between us that had been going on for months. I don't like being touched, I said. Ever. Maybe now that I can talk, we can find a way that doesn't hurt me. But for right now, let's just say no touching. Melinda frowned. It was obvious she wasn't impressed with what she was hearing. I wasn't worried about impressing her, though. She had already taken my secret and shared it without permission. It was past time for me to step up and defend myself. "Melinda," said her father again. This time, his voice had a stern tone to it. "Fine," said Melinda. She pushed the cup into the water and gave me room to swim out. "Does this mean I'm not allowed to catch him anymore?" "Were you ever allowed to catch him?" asked her father. I swam away from the cup before turning back and giving her father a wave with my fin. It was nice to know that somebody had my back. "So, what does this all mean?" I asked, once I felt I was a safe distance away. "I don't know," said Melinda's father. "What do you want it to mean?" "I don't know," I said. "Are you guys gonna get rid of me?" "Why would we get rid of you?" asked Melinda. "You're the only talking fish I know." "Yeah," I said, "but maybe you don't want the hassle of having a talking fish around." Melinda's father laughed. "I'm not sure you talking is the biggest hassle around here," he said. "Hey!" said Melinda, using her toe to kick a marshmallow at him. She didn't sound angry or anything. This was how the two of them joked around. "Kidding, kidding," said her father. "But she's right. Why would we want to get rid of you?" I felt myself relax a little, like a gigantic rock had been lifted off my back. They knew my secret, and they weren't going to get rid of me. "But some things are going to have to change," said Melinda's father. "I'm not sure what or how, but we can't just keep treating you like we did before. Whatever has happened to you has made you more than just a pet. And we're going to have to figure out how to make it all work." "I like to eat," I said. "Maybe we could start by giving me more food?" Now it was Melinda's turn to laugh. "That's something I can do." Right then and there, she gave me an extra flake. I crunched on it and smiled. Today hadn't gone exactly the way I had expected, but it hadn't turned out as badly as I'd feared either. "You said you wanted to know what it was like to live underwater?" I asked. "Definitely," said Melinda. "I have so many questions." "But first," interrupted her father, "homework." Melinda groaned, then looked in my direction. "I don't suppose you can read as well?" I shrugged. I wasn't sure if I could read or not. It wasn't something I had ever tried to do. "On your own, Melinda," said her father. "Your teachers want your work, not teensies." Melinda sighed. "We'll talk more about this later," she told me. I nodded. I hoped we would talk a lot about a lot of things later. In fact, I hoped we never stopped talking. "I need some time to think," said her father. "You're okay in there?" he asked me. "Yes," I said. He nodded and stood up, looking at the mess on the floor. "Maybe clean this up before you start your homework," he told Melinda. "You could have given me some warning." "I did," said Melinda. I laughed. I didn't know what we were going to become, but I hoped that with time, what Melinda's father had said would come true. I hoped one day I could be more than just a pet to them. Author's note: enjoyed this short story? Give the main series a try. Melinda is available in print, digital, and audiobook formats. Looking for a free copy? Request your local library stock them, or join my special review team. Check my website for details, PorscheRay.com. The end. This has been a Fallen Leaves Publishing production of Tales from the Tank. Season 1, Episode 2, Meeting Melinda's Father. Written by Porsche Ray and read by Mallory Peters. Produced, directed, edited, and mastered by Fallen Leaves Publishing. To listen to samples and learn more about the authors, please visit the Fallen Leaves Publishing website at fallenleavespublishing.com. The Melinda series is available wherever you buy your books. Source copyright and production copyright 2022 by Fallen Leaves Publishing.